You slightly taller people may be seated. Slightly taller. Good morning, boys and girls. Good morning. You guys sound better than I do this morning. I got a question for you, as always. There's an important holiday coming this week. What is it? Halloween is coming. That's exactly right. How many of you like Halloween up here? I bet they like Halloween too. These two guys do, don't they? Of course they do. Right. What is your favorite part of Halloween? Emma? Getting treats. I think that's right. Archer? Seeing all the costumes. Whoa. We've had one fall last week. We cannot have another one. Okay. Aoife, what's your dressing up as a scary costume? Candy, all right. Candy, all right. Candy wins, but costumes are in there too. Candy's good. Costumes are exciting. Flowers are really pretty too. Exactly. What are they going to dress up for Halloween? What are you going to be? A cowboy and the cow. That's great. What are you going to be, Emma? Do you know? You think you're going to be what? Who? Gretel, as in Hansel. Is your brother going to be Hansel? Okay, that makes good. Archie, what are you going to be? Okay, I don't know that, but it sounds cool. Sounds cool. I know what you're going to be, Aoife. A nowhere ghost. How about you? Vampire. An M&M. All right, so we got the good, the bad, and the scary up there, right? So that's the thing about Halloween. You've got candy, but you also have some costumes, and sometimes we dress up as things that are scary, right? Do you ever get scared during Halloween? No, of course, these people never get scared. You get scared? Yeah? And it really scared you, right? Well, you know, scaring is part of the whole Halloween experience. We're going to talk about that tonight. So we've got a Halloween service tonight, All Hallows Eve, which is what we're going to do tonight. And did you know there's some scary readings in the Bible? There are. There's some pretty spooky ones. Come tonight and you might be able to hear a few of those. But you know what? The thing about Halloween is it's very connected to another important day that we're actually going to celebrate next week. Do you guys know what that day is? What day comes after All Hallows Eve? Emma? All Saints Day. That's really good. And All Saints Day is the day in which we remember what? The saints, right? Sorry, you guys can just answer some of these questions right off the bat. We remember saints, right? And saints, do saints still live with us anymore? Some saints do, that's right, but we particularly remember saints that aren't here. Give me some saints. You know, what? St. Thomas, that's a good one, Archer. Well done. St. Therese, the little flower. You can tell she's a priest's daughter, isn't she? So proud, St. Therese, the little flower. Someone other than Archer know another saint? Saint, have you guys heard of, okay, tell me one. St. Augustine, that's exactly right. Yes, Aoife. St. Bridget of Ireland. These are all saints. They're no longer with us. But we're not scared, right? Because saints are with who? They're with God, right? So you know what? On Halloween, we can see scary things because we have hope that comes from God, right? And the very next day after all these scary, spooky things, we have a day in which we celebrate the saints who've gone to be with God. And guess what? You know other saints too, probably grandparents, somebody your families have known before, their parents, all these people that were very important in their lives, and they're not with us anymore, but they're with God, and that gives us a whole lot of hope. So you know what? You can be as scared as you want on Halloween as long as you come to church the next day or the next Sunday. Because then you'll be reminded. It's kind of like if you go to church on Good Friday, you better come on Easter Sunday, right? Because Good Friday is pretty scary. But Easter Sunday is a joyful day. And that's what we remember, even on Halloween, that we have great hope. And it comes from God and the Son that God sent. And I want you to look out at all these people here. There's not as many of you as usual, but there's enough of you to say it loud so that everybody can hear on all these different directions who it is that gives us hope when we're a little scared, who it is that loves us, and we're going to focus on the Son of God for this. So let's call out his name really loud on the count of three. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Good job, guys. Good job. Good morning. I'm going to begin with all of you the same way I always begin with the kids' children's moment on Sunday mornings, with a question for you. The question is, what for you is the good life? And when I say good life, I mean that part of who you are that can inspire you and bring about the most joy and the most happiness in your life. Is that good life for you something you get to do every day? Or is it something you've done in the past and you're constantly trying to get yourself back around to again anytime you have the chance? Is the good life what you feel when you have an afternoon or a weekend off to meet with some friends or to have dinner with your spouse? Or is it keeping up with your favorite sports team and maybe making it to the games whenever you have an opportunity? Is the good life for you right here in Huntsville? Or is it that special place you get to go to that is somewhere else? And once you have your idea of what for you the good life is made up of and what gets you there, then how is it that you find ways to live out that good life and find ways to at least get a feel for it each and every day? Maybe those seem like strange questions to kick off a Sunday morning sermon with, but if you're like me, I bet you think on your own about the good life every day. In fact, I think it is irrefutable that our philosophy of living that good life, whether we realize it or not, is ultimately affecting all that we do and all that we are constantly. I'll tell you, when I'm out driving around through Huntsville, I love to see vehicles that have stickers in the back windows or on their rear bumpers. Those stickers, I think, are meant to tell you a whole lot about what that very person driving that car thinks about the good life for themselves or perhaps for you. Those bumper stickers tell you what sports team the person believes in and supports. They tell you what the driver likes to do when they're not driving the car, like hiking in the woods or running or maybe cycling. Those stickers identify where they love to go when they're on vacation or those special places that they've been before. And you better believe they're going to tell you what the driver thinks everybody in this community, state, and country should or should not vote for in the upcoming elections. German shepherds, corgis, basset hounds, cats, horses, motorcycles, their mama. A sticker on the car would tell you who someone loves and who they love very much. And just in case you don't have one yet, a good magnetic car decal could certainly be letting everyone in Huntsville know that you attend a really good church, St. Thomas Episcopal Church, or that Lobster Fest is just 2 weeks away. I made the report at the last service that those Lobster Fest magnets were free, and then I was shot down. They're $5 a piece. It's a good fundraising tool, but if you need one, I have a discretionary account. I might be able to help you out with that. We have a few St. Thomas magnetic stickers, and they're available on your way through the office, so pick one of those up and put it on your vehicle. So maybe my question this morning would have been a whole lot easier if I just asked all of you what bumper stickers or license plates you have on your vehicle to let people know who see you where the good life is for you in your life. I remember a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away when I was a junior, I think, in high school, reading for the first time the essay on Walden Pond, which was written by Henry David Thoreau way back in the 1840s about his experiment in essential living in the woods just outside his home in Concord, Massachusetts. Thoreau in his book would end up becoming one of my first life-changing philosophical experiences. And if I could have stuck the entire book on the back of my first 1985 Dodge hatchback, I certainly would have done it to proclaim its greatness in my life. To this day, I still keep a copy of that book on my bookshelf wherever I go. And though I haven't read it in years, there is one excerpt from Walden that I've read so many times that even today I can almost recite it from memory. It is the passage that was a summary Thoreau had written about why he decided to alter his life in the first place and go live in the wilderness. And it hit me like a ton of bricks and inspired me to get out and get going when I was a kid. Thoreau wrote this: "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately, to front only the essential facts of life and see if I could not learn what it had to teach, and not, when I came to die, discover that I had not lived. To live deep and suck out all the marrow of life, to cut a broad swath and to shave close, to drive life into a corner and reduce it to its lowest terms." Later, when I got to college, I would discover the wild writings, 1950s, of Jack Kerouac and the Beats, with Kerouac's On the Road becoming my early 20-year-old reimagining of Walden Pond. And I'm still seeking new roads and wildernesses and applying new bumper stickers in my life, though now they are a bit more spiritual, I suppose, with Thomas Merton and his 7-story mountain being the latest journey that has inspired me to get out and keep moving in my travels with God. But Henry David Thoreau was the first, and for a young boy coming of age in the midst of the abject poverty that surrounded me in the communities of the Appalachian Mountains where I grew up, those words I first heard from Walden Pond became a sort of idealistic manifesto, a charge to break out of the lot I imagined I'd been drawn from birth into and bring to intentionality a life that was the good life lived fully. It would be what drove me into the world to try and experience all I could, even if I now realize that I was actually trying to get out of the woods and into the very world that Thoreau was trying to retreat from. Whether it's an idealistic manifesto from the transcendentalism of early America, or whether it is a more conservative daily regime and pattern that has not changed all that much over the last decade of your life, we all have something deep down that we have absorbed and that drives us in our approach to living life and trying to make life flourish. It rules our actions, it affects our passions, it directs our desires. Regardless of what we say about ourselves and who we are to others, what we really are in reality is predicated upon how we have come to define the good life and the means we have set out and accepted to live that good life and reach its goals. To make it simple, it is what bumper stickers we choose to place upon our cars and upon our life. For Jews at the time of Jesus, the philosophy of the good life, the life lived for them in covenant with their God, was detailed and specific in a total of 613 laws and ordinances. That's a whole lot of bumper stickers for your car. These laws of the Torah were to be followed rigidly. And the very sect we hear about the most in the New Testament, the Pharisees, emerged to both promote but also to police the keeping of the laws in the Jewish communities. And when these legalistic Pharisees encountered Jesus, who was going around proclaiming a kingdom that had come near, calling people to turn to a faith that kept covenant more out of love rather than out of fear, seeming to veer off the straight and the narrow, the Pharisees were more and more disturbed. If you remember last week, it was those very Pharisees, along with the Herodians, who conspired together to trip up Jesus and either destroy him once and for all in the eyes of the people or get him arrested by the Romans, which would have worked just as well. Jesus, in that situation, under the Roman laws of tax and coinage, turned the question back on his inquisitors and left them speechless. This morning, the Pharisees have returned for what will be their final attempt, and their plan is to attack Jesus in the area of their own strength and Jewish expertise, which is the law. They ask Jesus a simple yet difficult question that goes to the heart of the Jewish idea of the right-lived good life. Of the 613 laws in the Torah, which is the most important? Now, for Jesus to summarize the law of the Torah wrongly or even in a slightly questionable manner, they would have opened the doors for the Pharisees to move in and dismantle Jesus' message and teachings. For them, it would be the chance to finally expose him as a heretic and send Jesus and his ragtag team back to the backwoods of Galilee from whence they came. But like the question over taxes last week, Jesus is first and foremost a good rabbi and teacher, and he knows the law more deeply than they expect. Jesus knows what the book of Deuteronomy says. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This commandment, Jesus says, is the first and the greatest. Then he turns to the book of Leviticus, not to the many detailed ordinances for all facets of Jewish life, which Leviticus is more well known for, but more directly to Leviticus chapter 19, verse 18, which simply says this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Jesus says that on these two commandments, of all the 613 before and after, hang everything. And the Pharisees are yet again speechless before Jesus and the people who are gathering around to hear him. But there is more to the gospel this morning. Jesus once again turns the questions back to the questioners, asking the Pharisees, from whom the one rabbi, the leader, the entire Jewish world is waiting for, the Messiah, from where is he coming from, and whose son will the Messiah be? Of course, you and I know who that Messiah is. And it is this question, I believe, that puts the answer to the first question this morning to work and begins to offer us a roadmap to our very human search for that thing we call the good life. Of course, for the Pharisees, the long-awaited Messiah must surely be the son of King David, someone who will come among them and lead them to an earthly victory over the Roman invaders, someone who will restore the good life to the Jewish people. But Jesus is that Messiah right in front of them, and Jesus is pointing to something they can't even imagine that is bigger and beyond just one group of God's beloved. Jesus is a Messiah and Son of God that has come to restore life and love to the entire world, to all of God's creation. And brothers and sisters, the combination of both of Jesus' questions and answers this morning is good news still for all of us, because it proclaims that all the law and all the prophets were not created to show us some strange, secret, hard-to-find path to the good life and life's fulfillment. Rather, through God's Son, Jesus Christ, God is breaking down the good life to just two things for us who follow him: love of God and living out that love of God through love of neighbor. Giving to others first, sharing with others first, and forgiving others before they even ask, just as we would want for ourselves and just as the God of love is constantly doing for all of us in creation. Life in all its complexity. Life in all of its complexity of rules and ordinances at its most deliberate and deep, the very marrow of life, is about love. Love of God and love of others above all else. As I suspect you've already noticed, this morning's good news is not any different than last week's, and it's not going to be much different than the time that are coming. It's about getting our life as people of faith and as Christians in the right order, which I will be the first to admit is not as easy as it sounds. It is sometimes far easier to put our experiences, our personal satisfactions, the shiny political and idealistic things we support first, to use all that for the bumper stickers we put on the back of our cars for everyone we already feel is rightfully trailing behind us to finally catch up with and bring to the point. For us as Christians, the hard path, the much harder path of deep living is about trying to order our life differently from the world of buying and selling and of materialism and money that's run amok. Jesus tells us that money will never give us the fulfillment we desire, that material possessions and things can't do it. There aren't barns or banks big enough to contain real happiness, joy, and real fulfillment. All the laws and rules and disciplines we come up with cannot deliver it. There's no place we can run away to, and there will never be a place that is good enough. Jesus says, I came to you so that you may have life and have it abundantly. And that abundant life, that which we were made and designed and genetically encoded for, I believe, flows only truly from the good life that puts God and neighbor over and above self first. Jesus said, thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart and with all thy soul and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. Brothers and sisters, let us write those words across our heart this morning. Let us make them the magnetic decal that we apply and proclaim within our inner souls to the world. And let them be the words of the Son of God that become the manifesto and philosophy in a life lived in discipleship with Jesus Christ above all else. Love God, love neighbor, and follow God and Jesus. It's what the good life was intended to be from the beginning of creation. May we have the strength to follow it. Amen.
Amen.